So as you can see, I'm using a very old presentation, which is indeed still working very well for the purposes. As you can see the date, and you see this is a very formal, especially those who know me, this is very formal. I mean, I never show usually something like this. And you see these formal logos on top. Yeah, this was a very big program that we did. So, first of all, short introduction of myself. My name is Jonas Büchel. Thank you very much, Katarina, and for sure, as always, also Julius. This is for us a little bit more than just an organizational cooperation that lasts already for nearly 5 years or longer, I don't know, between Laimikis and Urban Institute, and for sure there's a third one up in the north. They are not here this time. Labor are no. And beyond that, that's also like a private friendship. So it's something that has really like also its, and that you will see in my presentation, has its special meaning. Because this private that I'm talking about there is also something what my colleagues that were talking before about the creative placemaking, I have been mentioning, wondering why in a small space, and this is very much also that what I'm talking about, the miracle power of small spaces. So you mentioned this small town or a small community. If you do this like for 25 years, how I'm doing it, then you realize it is always the small place. The small places make actually the difference. The colleagues from CSIS, which are here, which was a huge surprise that they were suddenly sitting next to me, the friends from CSIS, from Latvia, they have a similar situation. I didn't even want to talk about CSIS, but now they are sitting here. I have to mention that. I mean, this is the most prospering town in Latvia. It's a town of around 15,000 something people. You would never expect this town to be like on the top of the development. But they are on the top of the development because they are small and they have power to really have the short way. It's taken from German, I'm native German, so we talk in German about the short way. And when I have an idea, I can call anytime Katarina or Julius, and we have a short way directly. And we can probably kick off a project which would otherwise last, just to define it, maybe a half a year. So this is the way what actually matters in this moment. It matters the private connection. It matters something that you were very nicely demonstrating, how people find their problems or their solutions in the very morning while having a cup of tea, or I would prefer a coffee. So what I want to talk about is generally the two cases of a huge project that we did. Actually, in this case, I really say it was a huge project. We had the chance, but also the challenge to run a project over nearly 3 years in Latvia, together with the Ministry of Regional Development, which is mentioned there, which was focusing on, trying to develop communities. And we started from first hand in a different way. We said, okay, we want first of all to help those who actually care about their community. So in this way, I'm very much coming back to your presentation and the children, because a little bit different than many other ones, I would not think that every community needs to have that. It is the community who has to decide about its own wills, not us planners or somebody coming from top saying like, hey guys, you have to do better. So the question is very much like, can I actually force a process to happen? I mean, that's a little bit part of discussion with your presentation. Can I force something to happen if it's probably not needed or not willed? And who has the right to decide about a will? So we are very often talking about translating the language of politicians and of decision makers to people. Also, Laimikis did a great job on that. Labor did a great job. We tried it again and again. Many people in this room probably have done that. So we try to make the language of those decision makers appropriate to understand for people, but why we don't educate then the decision makers to understand the people? I think that's more worth it, actually, and more important. Yeah, so, I mean, you see, I try to, I mean, dealing with these matters for quite a long time of my life, I try to, like, really find a way to approach all of this, especially after doing this project, which was really like some kind of life turn for me. Very much focusing on this last word here, which is in red, a word that is entirely forgotten. But this word in red, dignity, also, it's not only about the human right that deserves dignity, it's also a community, because also that first slide is a living organism, because it's us living there. The question is, do we actually still understand the word dignity in a time where we are stressing terms like, I've just been like in Gdansk, we had a conference in Urbact workshop on social design, and we're talking about creative placemaking. I myself talk about community development tools and so on. So we are all in technocratic language. It's very techno. It's like constant techno. I feel the rave. I'm somewhere in Goa, you know. But am I really like in a community of people who actually? I'm thinking very much of that. What you will probably still hear from Ed and Vita later on, of a smaller housing residential area. They will talk about the project they are doing in Kaunas, a fantastic thing. It was mentioned already in your presentation. I mean, this is something where I think is everybody automatically like fitting in this kind of instrument. And now I will talk about two communities which have actually tried to come to the point that they really find their development process, their tailor-made development process. All what we have done in all of this is that, what means all of what we have done only, it's not really only, it was a hell of a work, but we still have to, and that's very much where we and I myself struggle in the moment. We have to still find a way how to like continue this. We had the chance in a pilot project, first time ever in the Baltic states, to really like, even, no, further on, even in Finland it doesn't exist. I'm quite sure Sweden doesn't have these models. They do an education program for community developers. And we had a competition of approximately 40 who were participating, and then in the end we chose 6 communities, and from each community there were like 2 persons participating. And we were running 12 workshops with different issues and themes, with national lecturers, international lecturers, or with somebody we would probably not call a lecturer, but much more somebody who was simply like a colleague who tried to support in the process. And we tried, and this, again, English word missing, doesn't exist, processual process to get to some point where we understand ourselves in our specific place what is best for us. So this development process was then, that's why I'm like coming to this communities of change, and by the way, that's very seldom I show flags, but in this moment I really felt like when I did this presentation. This is just a glimpse of it. Why I'm stressing this development training program so much is because I think that when Yekaterina was inviting me, I was very much thinking that this is probably the right moment. Finally, after a long time, we have not been so publicly speaking about the program, also to get a little bit more out with that, because in this year should happen finally also a little bit more, because we finished already more than a year ago. And also because I believe that this kind of approach might be still the best way how we can deal most of all with the biggest challenge that we have here, not automatically maybe our Polish colleague and not automatically always like Alexander from St. Petersburg. It's a little different scale, but we have a very rural problem right now, and we were very much focusing on rurality, which is, I was very thankful for your presentation that you are going out, because very often it's forgotten. When we talk about communities, we talk about towns, agglomerations, big cities, but we don't talk about the small, tiny village, or settlement, not even village. So we have 6 communities. I rush through some of them because they are not relevant for us in the moment. So this is the first one. You see here a map, or better to say a picture of Riga. And in the middle of it you see a heart, which is, I promise you it's literally existing. It's there, you will find it. You don't even have to dig. On 27th of July this year you can go there and see even the Red Hot Chili Peppers on a quite nice open air stage. Yeah. And you see this territory exactly where the heart is on. It's actually very easy to understand. It's an allotment garden area. Quite wildish looking, but still in its cadastre and its like structure well organized in a way by the city. And this whole island, I make it short and easy, for some years already, was on sale. So the city council said like, okay, we will sell the whole island, or like big part of the island. So we built a new city here, completely new city. Please correct me, I'm not really sure, but I think it was 2 billion or something like this they wanted to have. I mean, I'm not 100% sure, but it was like an astronomical sum for Baltic states. I mean, thinking about a little bit different countries and different scale, okay, 2 billion is still something nowadays anyway, which you easily like pay for your, I don't know, stamps, if you still need stamps. But for Latvia and for Riga, this is kind of a little bit weird. And besides everything else, interesting enough is that, very visible, this is the lung. We came to this definition during our project. This is the lung of Riga, because this is the green breeze in the center of it. And actually, just to put it even more patriotic a little bit, I'm actually really getting strange with flags and patriotism today. It's not typical for me. We don't have islands. The last island that we had, Estonians stole us. So now we need an island. And I mean, we have beautiful, but what we really have, we have islands in the Daugava. Many beautiful islands. And yeah, then the idea was actually, why do these allotment garden people, and specifically a small community, I mean, we have to say that's not really, that's fast nearly, I have to say, top down, how these eco people and these young crazy hipsters, or no, they were no hipsters, they were actually really freaks, were coming there and saying like, hey, we now say this island has to be like free of city council, free of new city and so on. So in this way, maybe the other allotment garden owners, the ones which are there, bigger territories are also simply not used or haven't been used, now it's getting better and more, felt maybe a little bit rushed over also. In this respect, this is a little bit edgy. But the moment yeah, I, from my perspective, have to say that young people got active, they were really young, we felt that there is a certain rush going on, something is happening. So it was suddenly like something rurality in urbanity, you know, they were like focusing on permaculture and really alternative concepts of gardening, all of that what we were so much missing for so many years, and there it was. And these people were really, really focusing on this spot, physically really. And that was wonderful to see how much passion somebody can develop. How much miracle then in this all is lying, this is a short description I was writing back then at that time, how much passion and how much power and magic in all of that is that due to the work of this small, they called themselves back then eco-community, the city council has first of all stopped and put on hold the selling process. I mean, this is a magic power, and we're not talking about a small community deciding something. This is a monstrous, how to say, not very sober city government instrument. So, I mean, to stop that is harsh, is difficult. I don't say that's entirely over, the planning process, and what's going to happen is not clear in the moment. But nevertheless, they pushed something heavy, and that is an important magic power that I find, yeah, reasonable enough to show in such a presentation. And what did actually partly also supported all of this was exactly this development process. That means the process of those people having the chance, completely free of anything, to join this training program and really get in contact with other people, especially also build up links to old grannies doing projects in Latgale and deep rurality, but suddenly they were talking really two different languages, not only physically Latgalian and Latvian being different, but also, I mean, an old lady working really in farming for whole her life speaks a different language than a small rabbit. I mean, he's very famous in Riga. He has like a head of that always has like a rabbit, and 18 years old. They don't talk the same language, but they found immediately a language because both were interested in permaculture. So there you go. And actually these Latgalian old ladies supported the process a lot because they helped them physically in every way. This is case one, and the other case, to finish very short, is this one. So this is very much here. You see? There, down. Under the river, you are in Lithuania. So welcome to the Latvian-Lithuanian border, at a place that nearly no Latvian knows that place, unless for sure the two ladies sitting there definitely know the place because they know the project, but otherwise they wouldn't. And I'm quite sure also the Lithuanians living approximately 15 kilometers from there also have never heard of that. This is Vadakste. Back then, when we started the project, the figure was 250. We are now under 200 inhabitants. And what there has happened is an amazing thing, that a completely shrinking community, only by the power, exactly of that what you described, of people being able to really go door by door and have an exchange of opinion, just like within a minute. I have an idea, I want to do something, I just go to my neighbor, because my neighbor is also head of the whatever, like unit. Yeah, I mean, there's no city or something. It's just like a small settlement. Yeah, or the next door is living the librarian, and so on and so on. The librarian was working with us in the team, and she started really in that moment to kick off a process to take even all the old abandoned overlefts of Soviet time with kids together, organized in the library, start to paint them. They had a most ugly income. There was only one bus station in the village, and suddenly the bus station started to get colorful. So still today now you have a colorful bus station there because they just took the building and just started to paint it, because that was simply necessary. What you today feel, less people, but more self-esteem. But still, again, it is this human thing of one dealing with the other. That's it. Thank you.